Hello everyone, my name is Notepad and Anon and I write games for fun. So what are we working on today? Well, we are going to be working on the preliminary notes of Project Golem. Now, I'm also drinking some good German beer, which I am very happy about. But, regardless, so, what are we actually going to be working on today? Well, it's as the... Let me bring up my list of things to do. We look here, Golem was the next up on our list. Now, I picture the game as Pendragon but with knights, or Pendragon but with mechs. Now, this turned out to be an interesting concept because when I posed the question to a few people, like, okay, what do you kind of want to see from a game like this? Everyone gave me completely different ideas and interpretations of that concept, and it was very amusing to see. So, what I'm going to have to do is almost build things from the ground up to make things work the way it's supposed to. Because, fun fact, it as of right now, it sort of works. Like the concept, the pitch. Like I had to work a lot with trying to get things to look right, which was the hardest part, to be honest. But, so, if we go here, here's our preliminary notes. Preliminary notes. Alright, so we have our core concepts. Front loaded with pilots improving. Alright, so let's select everything here. Because again, we have all the boring bits now. Now we just need to actually start writing things. So, let's take our primary information loops. Put one right there. One right there. We're going to have 4 of these. You'll understand why in a sec. Actually, I'll put. So, after some deliberation and some conversing with other various devs, one of the core things I found out was that the, quote, Golem is going to be the main character. With the family playing side. With the family being a method of advancement. Now, what does this mean exactly? So, at its core, at the absolute core of the experience, you're going to want to be leveling up your mech. You're going to be wanting to make your golem better and attune it to what you and in turn, the family that you're playing as, how they operate and how they function, how they make it work the way that you want it to. Mostly because after some deliberation and thinking it through a bit more, I realized that just blatantly saying this is just how it is isn't going to work. The focusing on the family isn't going to work as much, just because not a lot of people are going to have that, to a degree, sleeps. Rogue Legacy style progress. The core idea is you have your core mech. I'm going to refer to a mech or golem, so just bear that in mind. You have your core golem, and let's say your first character really is bloodthirsty. They kill everything. They are a bloodbath. But so it's going to impart that on the mech. How they operate is going to make that mech a little bit different for the next character. If the next character really isn't like that, the mech is going to still be like that. So the characters may be different, but the mech is going to stay the same because it's going to get passed down among the family as it grows and develops along with each of its pilots. And by the end of things, by the end of the campaign, you're going to have the same golem. You're going to have the same mech. But the people who piloted it, the people who died in it, the people who are lost to time, who used it, are going to be the ones that really change it, but you're still going to have the same thing, but they may or may not be actually, quote, important, end quote. So how I want to do that, I have a few ideas how I would want to do it, but that's kind of the core idea, and how that's going to be reflected in gameplay. As one of the other major devs I know, he goes by Isaac or Stormforger. It was instead of the pilot, instead of the mech augmenting the pilot's attributes, it's going to be the other way around. It's going to be the pilot augmenting the mech's attributes. So pretty much, if you're a more aggressive pilot, your mech's going to accommodate that. It's going to be more aggressive. However, if you're a less aggressive, more defensive pilot, it's going to start reflecting that as it grows more and more in power. So you may want to follow through with certain aspects, and other times you may not want to. So let's see. Second one. Due to popular demand, Mechs going to be a mixture of Western / Eastern. If I can spell Western right, / Eastern design. And I posed this question to a lot of people, and a lot of people didn't actually understand kind of what I was asking. When I asked, do you want Western or Eastern variety? The way I interpret it is relatively simplistic. Here, let me bring up my two examples. Kind of like my quintessential what I mean by a Eastern mech. Here is better, more of an anime image, and let's and kind of my example of more of a Western oriented mech. So, kind of looking at these two, you notice that a lot of Eastern style mechs are a lot agile, but they're a lot thinner and a lot less durable. And that's kind of the core thing. However, being more agile and being a little less durable means that they also end up, ironically enough, being frontline troops more often. Your army is composed of Eastern style mechs. Your army isn't composed of Western style. While BattleTech would like us to believe that every single person uses a mech, that's just not quite accurate. A lot of things in the BattleTech universe are actually, BattleTech and the term Robotech are actually more based around the concepts of combined arms warfare due to many things. However, we kind of see the mechs because the mechs were the popular thing, and they didn't get caught in limbo hell. So it's kind of the difference between being kind of like a heavy armored walking tank versus a knight in shining armor. I posed this question to many people, and what people wanted was both. And I nearly had a stroke at that idea, because fun fucking fact, that's very complex to do for more than a few reasons. However, the most perhaps one of the odder parts of it is that both of them serve, again, very different purposes, and if you would apply them both on the exact same field of battle, both of them kind of do different things. And it makes sense to do kind of a combination in more of a sci-fi setting. However, I'm deliberately shooting myself in the foot, because this is not sci-fi. This is going to be a deliberately pseudo-fantasy version of things, hence the term golem instead of mech. Now, I have a few methods of how I would want to approach this. I could either go down the route of ancient civilization, Lamau. It was always giant mecha that people just happened to adopt into it, the Escanflone method. Or I can go down the people have been just using these golems for centuries upon centuries, and people just understand how they're made, which is interesting to say the least, which is going to be kind of a lore thing I have to work on, because, fun fact, I'm going to be having to write a chunk of story for this godforsaken game to make sure everything actually works. But due to popular demand, people want the hybridized version. They want the thing in the middle. Now, if you were to hold a gun to my head and say, okay, what would you call it? A Eastern-Western mech combined. And what I tell you is, let me pull up either A, Pacific Rim, kind of these very chunky mechs with, very, relatively, quote, scientific, end quote, look to them. Yeah, here we go. This is kind of the idea behind them. Or, if I want to go a little bit more down that route, actually, let me get Titans artwork. We're going to have to go down the Titanfall route with these kinds of mechs. Now, both of them propose kind of an interesting conundrum, and both of them also don't fit terribly well in either of the two scenarios I was proposing. So this is why I was like, okay, this is going to be a fun and exciting adventure where I get to revolver ocelot, shoot myself in the fucking skull. But I digress. Nothing is more exhilarating than reloading in the heat of battle. But originally, for the Western mech, my idea was to make them more of a heavy cavalry methodology, as they slam into something they dislike and brutalize it to death in abundant amount of violence. However, that was not as popular as I was hoping. In addition, the Eastern style mech was supposed to be a little bit more Escanflone-esque. However, people didn't like that either. So I am going to have to compromise and go with this. The kinda Western interpreted Eastern mechs. They're a bit heavier, a bit thicker, and a bit more active. I think that's the term I'm going to use. They're not going to be as big as Pacific Rim Jaegers, not nearly as large. We're looking at about 10 meters, which for Burgistanis like me, it's about 30 feet. If I were to be a guessing man, which I should actually take as most enemies to either be rival golems or rival golems or mythic monsters. So you're going to be hunting down a giant fuck-off dragon, most likely in your golem, rather than, punching out, a dude, really. But also I should add, dynastic play. Dynastic play will need to be worked in at a fundamental level. Alright, so... Okay, so we want to look at our orange thoughts and info, let's see. Golems are going to be around 6 to 12 meters, and if we convert 6 meters to feet, that's going to be about 20 to 40 feet. With some being larger and chunkier. Oh, did not mean to click you. Go away, please. Lamau, go away. Which is also going to... Golems are going to be on a limb by limb health system, with the desire more to disable than destroy. Let's... Musk Golem. One of the requests was that there was supposed to be multiple, and people just said multiple different compositions of the golem. Now, there's some pretty obvious ones prior to my... the obvious ones are kind of like stone, iron, copper, bronze, and steel are kind of like, these are the, quote, simplest ones. So, probably, well, actually, I should add wood. So, like, base power ranking, wood, wood's kind of low, but it goes copper, bronze, iron, steel, and we'll put stone right back here. There we go. Stone, iron, steel, pretty cool. But I also planned on putting things in, like, mystic metals. Mystic metals and other kind of weird compositions to things. So from after steel, you get things like adamantine, mithril, orichalcum, etc. Most likely, the mystic metals, are not going to be something you're going to run across, because that's kind of reserved for more, more special, bots, or like you might have a limb made of mithril, or you might have one of your arms be made of orichalcum, not your entire golem. The only one that I'm explicitly going to make out of, like, entirely out of a magical material is King Arthur's golem, Excalibur. Entirely mythic metal. Now, you may be wondering now, hey, wait a second, you keep saying this Pendragon with Mechs, you keep saying this, you keep saying that, you keep noting all these various things. Well, that's going to be almost akin to Pendragon in a few situations. And by that, I mean, one, dynastic play is going to be essential. Two, you're going to be indirectly following the story of King Arthur, or this setting's version of King Arthur, from his childhood, actually before his childhood, his birth, all the way to his inevitable death. And the players are going to be families and knights and such surrounding the people around him. Now, you may be wondering, but that's railroading! I mean, like, Pendragon doesn't. Pendragon's one of the best role-playing games ever created. The reason why is because the things that happen with Arthur are in the background. It's just simply a method to allow things to occur. And I want to have people kind of ramp up things, people get invested in what Arthur's doing, in addition to what are the other people doing, what are my families doing, do I have a rivalry with another family? I want all that to be constant, but you also have things of what happens to the family golem as you go through history, as it changes and molds and creates something. It has this bitter hatred toward this other golem where, oh hey, these two, we merged our families after generations of conflict. We've merged our families together, we're happier it can be. Why do our golems hate each other so much, and why will they refuse to actually work together? Because you've had generations of conflict with each other. And that's kind of Arthur's life. Probably it's going to take up about 60 years, roughly, is going to be kind of the center point of the, quote, grand campaign, end quote. of, and roughly speaking, you could probably get about 3-4 solid, 3-4, probably 5 solid generations in if you're lucky, of characters and different ideas. But as you kind of ramp up toward the end, you're noticing things are like kind of coming to a natural conclusion. That's kind of the point. But if you want to wrap up earlier, cool, that's fine. If you want to wrap up, after Arthur. Fun fact, spoiler alert, everyone. King Arthur dies at the end of the Arthurian legends. Yeah, he gets kind of dabbed on by his son, who he murders. But you have the kind of like, what do you do until leading up to that point? Are you good friends with Arthur? Are you someone who's kind of opposed to Arthur? Or are you a guy who's going with his son? So it's like, where do you stand? It, depending on who you read, it kind of depends on the situation. The usual of Le Mort de l'Arthur. Le Mort de l'Arthur. What happened was he was severely wounded and he got put on a boat to go to Avalon, which is a mythical island, where he was taken care of by either Morgan Le Fay and her 2 booty call women, I guess. I don't fucking know. Or just 2 random women. And he's currently, quote, resting and recovering on on Avalon until England needs him again. But this time, what's effectively going to happen is Excalibur is going to get fucked. After he fucking kills his son, and then he just kind of dies. That's not really doing like, oh wow, he's going to Avalon. No, he just fucking dies, and it's like, oh shit, oh no, oh no. But one of the other kind of getting back on like composition of Mechs, one of the other things I was thinking about putting is, I'm gonna put it like right here instead, is I don't have a good name for it yet, but I'm gonna call it Viadvud. Effectively, how the map I have it here. Give me 1 second. I can actually see if I can't pull the map up. I'm a professional. Fantasy England. Oh god. There we go. Here's Fantasy England. I'm gonna shrink it down. As you can see, I spent 1 billion hours in Paint doing this. It's very detailed. I hope you all like it. But yeah, we're dealing with Fantasy England. With fantasy things. As you can tell, I spent a lot of time and effort on this. Ireland just got flipped around because fuck the Irish, I guess. Scotland grew a second head. Cornwall got a tumor. Wales is untouched because I didn't know what else to do there. I think Newcastle got extended with Hull. I don't know what's there. I'm not fucking English. But we also got some new islands for our definitely not Anglo-Saxons to fuck up and invade. Poor Sleeves. That's not. Yeah, the thing is with Arthur is that we're around about 500 AD. We're about the 4th century. This is like about a century or 2 after the Romans left. We don't have Scots with huge claymores yet. Oh no. We have Gaelic people. Angry Gaelic people who fucking hate everyone. Yeah, they're the ones that everyone is terrified. Yeah, they're the ones that are, here, let me see if I can pull up some, let's see, Gaelic, 4th century. Or actually, a more accurate example, Picts. Yeah, welcome to the Pictish people. No. Yeah, no, they're the way we kind of traditionally see, like, oh, the barbarian menace. It's yeah, that's them. They're very mad, very angry, and plentiful. Very plentiful. If you know Game of Thrones, you could almost associate them with kind of with the wildlings. That's kind of where George R. R. Martin stole it from, because George R. R. Martin actually has like nothing unique about him in any remote capacity. Yeah, so half-naked warrior people who just fucking despise everything south of them. No, that's Gaul. That's in France. But same idea. But one of the things about the Gales that I was thinking about doing was that they have golems too, except they're entirely made of wood. They pretty much grow their golems, and they're pissed. Yeah, picture you're just living your normal life on, in the Highlands, being less like, oh man, I love being a British person because there's no Romans here anymore. What's that stomping noise? Oh boy, it looks like the entire forest is coming to kill me. Yay! And they're all piloted by half-naked people. Yay! Oh fuck. So that's going to be kind of like one of the major, dare I say, sample enemies. Quote-unquote sample enemies. Just made out of wood. So if you're located more in the north, you're going to be having to encounter the Picts a little bit more, the Picts and the Gales a smidge more. If you're down south, you're going to have to deal with the Saxons, or the definitely not Saxons. I don't quite know how I want to do it yet. And the definitely not Saxons are too busy becoming Viking mechs. I wonder if I can actually find... they don't really have any good ones, but... yeah, none of these are good. They're all way too futuristic. Fuck. Oh, wait, here we go. Now, I want you to picture that, again, you're now an Englishman on a fishing village. Life's pretty grand. You fish, and your life's okay. There's some other weird people who speak weird languages over there, but they leave you alone most of the time. But you're minding everything. One day, you see a boat come in. Then you see multiple boats, and then you realize the boats are walking along the floor, the channel, and they're coming to kill you because the not Saxons have wood golems, and they have a lot of wood golems. A never-ending fucking swarm of shitty longboat golems, in addition to their much fancier, much heavier, more iron steel mechs that they just have numbers of and are very angry at you existing. It's not easy being in 4th century England, fun fact. It kinda sucks. What the fuck is this? No, Last Oasis. Never heard of it, don't care. So it's kind of like you're always going to be pressured from either magic wood mechs that are pretty much like evil ents to plentiful amounts of angry Germans. Let's see, golems. Multiple tuners, but... going, yeah, but most of them do anything acrobatic. Going to limb by limb health system, which brings me to going into, if I want to, I can go for thought. golems all have a quote kill point, which if disabled or destroyed, immediately shuts off the golem. So half the appeal is trying to find, like, how do I actually disable this? How do I disable my opponent rather than how do I outright kill them? Oh, that also reminds me. So, fun fact, everybody. I needed to look up architecture, because we always have to ask ourselves, how do people build things? And how would a lot of designs actually function? And the way we traditionally view mechs, the way we view things like that, are usually either incredibly tank-like or incredibly human-esque, or they're very machine. The issue is that Romans, if you were to tell Romans to build a giant fucking robot, and they would be like, all right, we can do that, but no, fuck square cube law or science. Let's just say they have magic. They wouldn't make something mechanical looking. They would try to make it look relatively human, because the Romans were very humanist in the way they designed their statues, their people. Like, one big thing about, like, Romans that I thought was very fascinating was all the marble busts they have of their family. There's a reason they all don't look very handsome, as kind of tradition later on in life to make people look better in death for future generations. They embraced it. They said, this is what I look like. I'm worn, I'm broken, I'm angry. That's just who I am. And I revel in it. Now, if you were to give them, again, design a giant mech, they would do the exact same thing, most likely. They'd be either modeled after gods. Pretty much you'd have just a giant Mars. They would be modeled after soldiers. That's why I kind of had the Praetorian on there. Or they would be modeled almost akin to their shipping, which their shipping was very over-practical. They didn't really have a lot of, like, things that weren't needed. It was very... They did well because there was no exterior things to make them special. It was a ship, and it did things that it was supposed to do. It did nothing else, or it did its one specific thing. So a lot of their designs would be built for purpose. And in 4th century England, i.e. post-Roman Britain, you still have a lot of Roman things influencing them, like an excessive amount. So, taking all of that together, the golem designs would be relatively human-esque, but probably still a little bit dramatized. So pretty much they're not... Take your stereotypical view of what a knight looks like, and that would be roughly how people would want to design what their golems look like. They wouldn't want anything too extravagant, because that's just not their method of doing things, which kind of contrasting the Picts and the Gales up north, because if you look at their old artwork, let me see if I can find some. Now, like, this is Gaelic artwork. You kind of see it's very broad, very interpretive, very interlaced, very pretty. Things look very pretty to the Gaels, because that's what the Celts liked. And if we look at kind of what Pictish art looked like, if we go here, you can see the same thing. It's very, it's design oriented. Things are very simplified, but you also understand completely what's going on with a lot of kind of, I wouldn't say extravagances, but a lot of artwork and things to highlight what you are and what you're doing. So you're looking at a hyper-practical design versus very unpractical designs, if that makes any sense. You may be wondering, what the fuck does this have to do with anything mechanically? Well, I need to make sure I understand how they actually look. So you can't actually have spider mechs. That's like one thing. Like, there are going to be no spider mechs. But, let's see. I'll put it right there. Golems are going to be divided into roughly 5 classes. Fried, lowest. Roughly 5 classes, usually based on size, function. Which brings me to classes. Control C. You're going to have the lowest tier. We're going to have our anti-infantry golems, our golems, our siege golems, and finally our heavy golem. Hello, cops. How are you? I promise, officer. It's fine. No need to worry about me. Yeah, no, effectively, Sleep. Like, the thing is, with this is less like, you need the aesthetics to make sure the mechanics work. Because without them, it's just like, I want to make a spider mech, and you're like, yeah, sure. And it's like, nah. That ain't how it works. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, put you right there. And which brings me to dynastic. Lighter dynastic play. We'll probably need to have a noble lady / lad generator or something similar. Yeah, I pretty much need to make a chart of roll for waifu / husbando. Oh god, that reminds. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move you right here. Yeah, it's not going to be a super heavy. This isn't going to be like Blood Coin and Steel tier. Actually, it's talking about BCS will implement aspects without all of the hardcore back end things. You have an estate. Do things on estate. Etc. Now, I can go down the Lady Knight route and just say, it doesn't really matter who you are as long as you can pilot the damn mech, no one cares. Or I can try to stick to more of a quote historical accuracy, end quote, and skew the Lady Knight situation. But that's kind of a bridge I will cross when I get to it. Which brings me to Golems will improve at the end of every generation when they are passed down to the heir. So there you kind of need to make a compromise. Like, do I want to continue with my very strong character, or do I want to sub him out for someone who's vastly weaker, mind you? He is a weaker character, but I get to improve my golem. So that's kind of the design philosophy there of like, who do you want, an experienced pilot with a weaker golem, or do you want a less experienced pilot with a stronger golem overall? So that's kind of your back and forth. Which brings me to golems will develop their own personality by virtue of family/players. Now, okay, so this brings me to the fun part of having to assign eras to everything. And so yeah, we won't have to really worry about things. It's like, okay, what's your house and prestige? What's all? I'm not going to worry about that. It's going to be a little bit more. It's going to be way lighter than that, but that's still going to be like a part of it because you can't not have that, but not nearly as intense as Blood, Coin, and Steel would be. Golems are around there, which brings me to golems are composed of certain materials. I will also probably be renaming things. So limb by limb health. Yeah, these names are going to get changed, definitely. I think the hardest part... Okay, so actually, yeah, that works fairly well. Okay, so what are the problem children going to be? Well, actually, what I should do. So, roughly speaking, if I am to be a betting man, so project will most likely take... I'm going to say probably we're going to aim for about 6+ episodes. Now, mind you, this is if things do take a while, which I have a strange feeling they are going to take a while, just due to the fact that there's so much things I have to consider. But that also brings me to attributes. Now, I can attempt to steal some attributes, or I can attempt to just make some of my own. Now, one of the other things I kept asking people being this like, is there anything special mechanically you want to see? Because I've been trying to get out of my comfort zone for mechanics. Because I felt that I feel that I've been entering somewhat of a holding pattern with my mechanics. So I've been wanting to play around with some more. and see if I can't make something a little bit more interesting than I have been. So, let's say Pendragon character sheet. Now, the thing is, I love Pendragon. So we got our attributes, our features, our basic skills, our personality traits. We're to be honest, this doesn't matter. Actually, probably this doesn't really matter. And probably squires don't matter as much either. So what we're going to have to really worry about is, so let's just muse. Let's muse and think as I drink my beer. So, put my foot up. Oh fuck, I'm sore from last night. So, for mechanically speaking, with things being a little bit faster, but a little bit tougher at the same time, I do know I'm going to want limb-based damage. So that's one. Limb-based damage. That also means that somewhat characters are going to have various that the golems themselves are going to have limbs. Characters, though, I don't think so. What I might do is have a... How do I word it? Well, in previous mech games I've written, not any of the recent ones, but back when I was working on HBM, I used a system called pilot cards. And the idea was that you build the mech separately from your pilot. The pilot who had a very simplified character sheet with very simplified mechanics behind them. Because again, the point wasn't for you to be a pilot. The point was for you to pilot your giant goddamn robot. Now, I was failing. I'm going to have to do that exact same thing. Just the idea of, like, picture a character sheet, except there's a thing on the bottom corner, which is blank, in which you just slap your character sheet, your pilot card for a bit, and then when he dies, you take your character off and put a new one in. That idea, it's like a transparency being put over it. Now, that could work. So pilots would be relatively simple to do. I could just probably do a basic tri-stat system with them. Just strength, mind, spirit. Body, mind, spirit. Would that work? Probably. Physical, mind, and faith? Spirit? Yeah, let's go spirit. So, that would be our basic one. I could probably throw in things like passion. I'm going to stand up for a second. Readjust. Oh, Jesus, my back. Ugh. Fucking hell. Ugh. That, my friend, is called my back cracking and terrible, terrible sounds. So, pilots are going to be relatively simple. What we can do probably is something like a tri-stat system. Tri-stat system with... What? You get used to it. But Yeah, no, it's like my back is fucked. Like, my back makes terrible, terrible sounds. Welcome to having really bad posture and being overweight for a very, very long time. But tri-stat system, something like Passions. Probably still Pendragon Passion system. Or actually, what I could do, tri-stat system, your passions are assigned out of, let's say, depending on how old you are, you get more passions in any direction. And when that character is retired or dies, the passions that they currently have are transferred to the golem. Simple enough. Actually, a passion and deeds are passion. So if you are a fucking psychopath and kill everyone, the fact that you are a slaughterer is going to transfer over. Yeah, that's an idea. The pilots are supposed to be pretty simple to do. Now, golem design, that's going to be the tough part. There we go. Actually, here, we'll see if I can do it. I'm going to get right next to my microphone. There you go. Hear that sound? That is my shoulder. I was amazed that I actually picked up on the mic and went to review the video later just to check. But actually, I wonder, have I done a D100 system recently? Yeah, screw it, let's check. Yeah, let's see if I can. Let's see if I can do both shoulders at one time. There we go. Ah, there we go. Yeah, that's just what my back sounds like on a daily basis. It's great. Have I done D100 system before? Hello, Pinterest. Go away, Pinterest. Let's see, dice list, actually, D20, dice list, D20, small dice pool, D10, dice pool, dice, D10, interlock. That's the beat system. That's a D20 system. It's going to be a very simplistic dice pool. That's a D20 system. Excuse me. What was God? You know, I know I finished fucking Wool, Sheep, and Shepherds, but I could still. You're actually a dice pool system, if I remember correctly. Yeah, well, you're sort of a. Actually, no, you're not a dice pool system. You're a range system. Range system, dice pool, dice pool, dice pool. You're going to be a dice pool system. You're a very limited dice pool. D10s, I believe. Actually, you're a variety of dice. 3d6, 2d6, D20. Actually, looking at that, yeah, this is the only one. Tainted Bloodlines, but that's a D2000. Do I want to use D2000 for this? That even be appropriate? No, I don't think that would be even appropriate. This game doesn't really need that much. No, you know what? I don't think D2000 works. D2000 relies more on having a crap ton of skills. This game, you don't really need that amount of skills because that's not appropriate. So, alright, you know what? Fuck it. We're gonna make a D100 system. A straight up D100. Yeah, we'll put that right here. D100. Actually, what I'm gonna call it? I'm just gonna call it a percentile. Percentile system. Pilots. Actually, if I want to do pilots, just use 2D10. Use 2D10. Haha, not D100. It's 2D10. Which also allows me to play around with things. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, dice pool. My philosophy on dice pools, like if I look on like all of my various things, I have three big. Here, let me. Oh jeez. The big three with dice pool for me is just like, does it have the range? Does it have numbers? And does it have the concept behind it of threat and daring? Because, like, the OVA system of roll a bunch of dice and you have to select the matching ones, that generates a lot of fear, because if I roll a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I've rolled fundamentally a 6. That's all I roll. I roll a 6. However, someone rolls, 4 2s, they have an 8 now. They're higher than me. It's kind of that risk reward of, you might roll low, but you got a lot of low numbers, you still have a decent dice roll. Versus someone who just, I have a single 6. Well, you just have a 6. That isn't really much. Outside of that, I like the curve. You have no idea how easy things are to do if you have a curve. Like, here, let me show you my waifu right now. Here, give me 1 second. 3. I'm going to show you what real... Like this, you see this beautiful thing right here? That's called the curve, baby. Look at that. 3d6, 10, and 11 are your most common results. You want to know what that means? That means you can base everything off of this. Is it hard? Is it easy? Oh no, it's gonna be average. 10, 11. Oh, it's easy. Boom, 6. Or oh no, it's gonna be a little bit hard. Boom, 15. It's like, it's so easy to find everything you need with this chart. It's super simple. You get a +1, boom. +2, boom. Like there's like a very clear one. Now, mind you, 2d6, though, I will say, this produces like a +1 here changes things real drastically. I usually only use 2d. I actually don't like 2d6 as much. Like, you don't think, +1 isn't that valuable, until you realize, hey, the most common roll now becomes 8, and you shifted everything up by 1. Like, it's, each +1 does change things real drastically, even though you still have the same ranges of things. Yeah, again, 3d6, this is such a nice thing, that you can also pull dice tricks with it really easily. Like 2D, like, dice tricks are really easy to do, being this, like, re-roll your lowest die. Cool, I rolled a 1, 2, 3, I have to re-roll my 1. Or, hey, you have a penalty, re-roll your highest die. Boom, done. There's so many little tricks you can pull with the dice pools that you can't do elsewhere. You're like, but what about advantage on D20? Since D20 is everything is 5%, you end up with situations where you're just as likely to end up with a 20 as you are with a 1. There's literally no difference in the percentage chances. So you end up in situations which it's like, oh, well, I rolled advantage, but I still rolled kind of shitty on both. But if you roll like an advantage with a D6, with 3d6, and you get to re-roll some of your lower dice, if I roll a 4 on my, a d6, actually, if I roll like a 1 on my d6, I'm like, oh, well, I can re-roll it, and then statistically speaking, I'm going to end up higher. Like, I've averaged out a lot more. You're going to hit this area a lot smoother with 3d6. 2d6 becomes a little bit more complicated, but anytime you have less dice, things get a little bit more complicated. That was actually one of my compromises with D2000 for Tainted Bloodlines, is that adding the D20 in and the D100 kind of evens both out, because you're not always rolling these big-ass checks with the D100, nor are you only rolling with just 5% chance for everything on the D20. I also think that's why Modifius? Yes. Modifius's 2D20 system, 2D20 system took off as much as it did, because it kind of eliminates some of the randomness inherent in the system, you could say. Because if you end up with 2d20, here's your results now. You end up with, you average out a lot easier than with any other dice. Yeah, you're more statistically going to end up with something a little bit easier. The only other real complicated one I ended up doing was... it was Monster Girl Adventures. And somebody moved the picture again. Who's the glue sniffer? Oh my god, someone's a glue sniffer. Everybody laugh at the glue sniffer. Ha 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 ha. He's a faggot. I fucking hate this. No. Jesus fucking Christ. I wish there was a lock button on some of these things. It's like, no, you cannot change anything with the picture. But if I look down a little bit further, like when you're trying to hit a target number, things get a little bit more complicated. Like, let's say for here, attribute plus skill plus modifier and d6s, and I think it's only 4 or above. So let me see if I can do this right. 5d6 4. Is that the? I know. No, that's not right. Function library. Maximum or highest number. God, where is it? There's a lot of little weird things you can end up doing. If I had Discord's dice bot, it'd be a little bit easier to make it go. But effectively, if I roll 5d6, I'm going to most likely end up with 3s. That's kind of the most likely answer is 3.5, so it's a little bit harder to get it. So let's say half of these, like 5d6, you're doing pretty well, because you can technically succeed at an incredibly hard check, but you're most aptly probably going to roll 2 or 3, which does lead to people rolling like an absurd amount of dice to do most things, but that's also the value of dice pool systems, because you can completely ignore some results by virtue of being completely unlucky. Let's see. But yeah, no, dice pools are really nice just to work with. Here's some more of those. Okay, so we've got Project Golem. mostly sorted out. I have the idea. I have the numbers. I think, yeah, I'm going to do a percentile system for the mech side and a 2d10 system for the pilot side. With getting the idea, the pilot side, you're not really supposed to do much with it. That's kind of there for the virtue of being a pilot is that you can interact and do things like that, but a majority of the time you're going to be in your golem, fighting things with your golem, because this is a game about golems, god damn it. But alright, so I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you all. Well, thank you for watching. It's I know this wasn't exactly the most exciting or, exhilarating stream in the world, but it helped me get things sorted out and get things to where it needs to go. So, Godspeed, good luck. Hope you have a nice rest of your day. I will most likely hop in the VC, because that's what I do after streams. And, yeah. Bye-bye.